The day had started like any other for Jamie. She woke up to the soft glow of sunlight streaming through her bedroom window, casting warm patterns on the walls. Her heart fluttered with excitement as she remembered that it was her birthday, the day she had been eagerly anticipating for months. She had planned every detail of this day to perfection. A small get-together with her closest friends, a beautiful cake her mom had baked, and the excitement of celebrating another year of life surrounded by the people she loved most. For Jamie, her birthday wasn't just a celebration. It was a reminder of all the things that had shaped her into who she was. It was a symbol of the bond she shared with her best friend, Lauren, a bond that had been tested time and time again. Lauren was more than a friend. She was family. They had grown up together, their lives intertwined in ways that only true childhood companions could understand. From the moment they met, there was an undeniable connection. Their friendship had seen them through countless highs and lows, late-night chats, summer adventures, heartaches, and moments of triumph. But that morning, something felt different. As Jamie prepared for the party, she noticed Lauren's behavior becoming increasingly distant in the days leading up to the event. She couldn't quite put her finger on it, but it was as if Lauren had become a shadow of the friend she used to be. It wasn't just the subtle glances or the lack of enthusiasm when Jamie talked about the party plans. It was something deeper, something unspoken. Lauren had always been Jamie's biggest supporter, always there to help with every step, every detail. Yet lately, she seemed withdrawn. The closeness they once shared felt strained, like there was a wall between them that neither of them knew how to break down. As Jamie got ready for the party, she pushed those thoughts aside. Today was supposed to be about celebrating her life, the people she held dear, and the joy of turning another year older. She slipped into her favorite dress, the one she had picked out just for this occasion, and took a moment to look at herself in the mirror. She smiled, reminding herself that she had every reason to be happy. After all, it was her day. But little did she know, everything was about to change. The party was set to begin at 6 p.m., and by the time the clock hit 5:30, the house was already buzzing with activity. The sound of laughter echoed down the hallway as guests started arriving. Jamie greeted everyone with a smile, excited to spend time with her closest friends. As the doorbell rang one last time, she turned to see Lauren standing in the doorway. "Hey, birthday girl," Lauren exclaimed, her voice cheerful, but there was something off about the way she said it. Jamie couldn't quite place it. She had expected Lauren to be her usual bubbly self, but there was a hesitance in her step, a stiffness in her posture. "Thanks for coming," Jamie replied, offering her a warm hug. "I'm so glad you're here." Lauren smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Instead, her gaze drifted around the room, scanning the other guests. Her smile faltered for just a second before she quickly regained her composure. Jamie thought nothing of it at first. After all, who wouldn't feel a little overwhelmed at a party? But as the night wore on, the feeling in the pit of her stomach grew. There was something about the way Lauren was acting, distant, almost cold, that made Jamie uneasy. They had been through so much together, and Jamie had always been able to tell when something was wrong. But now, every time she looked at Lauren, she saw a stranger, a person who had once been her closest friend, now standing just out of reach. The guests mingled, enjoying the food, the music, and the laughter that filled the air. Yet, as Jamie wandered through the crowd, looking for Lauren, she noticed something that made her stop dead in her tracks. Lauren was talking to a group of friends who were supposed to be hers too, but she was standing just a little too close to them, laughing a little too loudly. Her eyes flickered across the room, meeting Jamie's for a split second before quickly darting away. It was a fleeting moment, but it was enough to make Jamie's heart race. Was she imagining this? Was there something more going on that she didn't understand? She tried to brush off the feeling, but the unease lingered. As the night wore on, Jamie began to wonder why Lauren had been acting so strangely. They had always been inseparable, But now Lauren was acting like someone Jamie didn't even recognize. Maybe she was just tired, or maybe there was something on her mind that she hadn't shared yet. The cake was brought out, and the lights dimmed as everyone sang happy birthday. But even as the candles flickered, Jamie couldn't shake the sense of discomfort gnawing at her. She forced a smile, blew out the candles, and tried to enjoy the moment. But it was hard. Lauren had slipped away from the crowd and was now sitting in the corner, scrolling through her phone. Jamie caught a glimpse of her, and for the first time that evening, she felt an undeniable wave of coldness wash over her. Lauren didn't even look up when Jamie approached her. Instead, she merely nodded in her direction, barely acknowledging her presence. "Everything okay?" Jamie asked, her voice gentle, trying not to let the worry show. Lauren glanced up for a brief moment, but her eyes were hard to read. "Yeah, just tired. It's been a long day," she muttered, turning her attention back to her phone. Jamie hesitated, unsure whether to press further. She could feel the distance between them growing, and it hurt more than she cared to admit. But just as Jamie began to walk away, a sudden noise from across the room grabbed her attention. A burst of laughter, followed by a loud crash. She turned to see one of the guests had accidentally knocked over a vase, spilling water all over the floor. Everyone rushed to help, and in the commotion, Jamie's mind momentarily distracted itself from Lauren's behavior. But that's when it happened. Amid the chaos, Jamie's phone buzzed. She pulled it out of her pocket, expecting to see a message from her mom or a family member. But when she unlocked the screen, her heart stopped. It was a text from Lauren. Jamie's hands trembled as she read the message. "Tonight's the night. I'm taking everything from her, starting with this party. Let's make sure Jamie doesn't get what she deserves." Jamie's breath caught in her throat. She couldn't believe her eyes. Was this a joke? Was someone messing with her? But as she looked up, her gaze fell on Lauren, who was now standing by the door, talking to a group of people. Her back was turned, but something about the way she was acting made Jamie's blood run cold. The pieces started to fall into place. Lauren wasn't just acting distant, she was planning something. Something that would change everything. Jamie's heart pounded in her chest as she realized the gravity of the situation. The one person she had trusted more than anyone else in the world was betraying her. The party, her special night, was no longer a celebration. It was the beginning of something much darker. What would Lauren do next? Jamie couldn't take her eyes off her best friend, wondering if everything she had ever known was about to shatter. Jamie's mind raced as she stood there, the phone screen still glowing with the chilling message from Lauren. Her hands trembled, and her stomach churned with a mix of disbelief and confusion. For a moment, she wondered if she was just overreacting, if she had misunderstood the text. But deep down, she knew that something wasn't right. She had known Lauren her whole life. There was no mistaking the pain that laced every word of that message. Her mind replayed the events of the evening, the way Lauren had acted, the strange distance between them, the coldness in her eyes. It was as if Jamie had become a stranger to her best friend. The wall that had slowly been built up between them over the past few weeks was now fully visible, and it was more painful than Jamie could have imagined. She took a deep breath and tried to steady her racing heart. She knew she had to confront Lauren, but part of her was terrified of what that confrontation might reveal. What had gone wrong? What had happened to the friend she once trusted so completely? How had they gone from childhood companions to this? Silent animosity simmering just beneath the surface. Jamie glanced around the room, searching for Lauren, but she was nowhere to be found. A knot formed in her stomach as she realized that her best friend was intentionally keeping her distance. She couldn't let this moment pass. She couldn't just pretend like everything was fine. This wasn't the night for avoiding uncomfortable truths. Her legs felt heavy as she made her way through the crowd, trying to push past the laughter and chatter of the other guests. Every smile, every casual comment felt like a reminder that something huge was about to change. As Jamie walked through the house, she could feel the weight of the situation bearing down on her. The more she thought about it, the more her mind raced with questions. Why would Lauren want to sabotage her birthday? What had Jamie done to deserve this betrayal? Was it really possible that their friendship could be on the verge of breaking forever? Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of soft footsteps behind her. She turned around to find Lauren standing in the doorway of the kitchen, her eyes darting away as soon as they met Jamie's. For a moment, they both stood there in silence, as if the words neither of them knew how to say hung in the air between them. "Lauren," Jamie said softly, her voice trembling, "can we talk?" Lauren hesitated before nodding. "Yeah," she replied, though her voice lacked the usual warmth. "Sure." They moved to the quietest corner of the house, away from the prying eyes of the other guests. Jamie tried to keep her voice steady, though her heart was pounding in her chest. "What's going on?" Jamie asked, her eyes searching Lauren's face. "You've been acting so weird tonight." And then, her voice caught in her throat as she pulled out her phone, showing Lauren the message. "What is this?" Lauren's eyes widened as she read the text. For a moment, she didn't say anything. She just stared at the phone, her face a mixture of guilt, frustration, and something else. Something that Jamie couldn't quite place. "I didn't mean for you to see that," Lauren finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't mean for it to get this far." Jamie felt the blood drain from her face. "Get what far?" she demanded. "What's going on, Lauren? Why are you doing this?" Lauren took a deep breath and seemed to gather her thoughts before speaking again. I don't know how to say this." She paused, her hands fidgeting nervously at her sides. "I've been feeling this way for a while. I've been feeling like everything is slipping away from me. Like I'm losing you, Jamie." Jamie blinked, taken aback by the admission. "What do you mean? Losing me? I'm right here. We've been best friends for years. You've been my closest person, Lauren. We've always had each other's backs." Lauren's eyes flashed with a mixture of frustration and something darker, jealousy maybe. "But you don't need me anymore, Jamie. You've got everything. You're beautiful, you're smart. You've got this perfect life, and everyone loves you. And me. I'm just the girl in the background." Jamie felt a cold rush of air in her chest. She had never heard Lauren speak like this before. There was an edge to her words that Jamie hadn't even known existed. She had always thought that their friendship was solid, built on a foundation of love and mutual respect. But now, listening to Lauren speak with such bitterness, Jamie realized just how much she had taken their bond for granted. "I never wanted to make you feel like that," Jamie whispered, her voice shaking with emotion. "I never wanted you to feel like you were in my shadow. You're my best friend, Lauren. I don't care about anything else. You've always been enough." But Lauren didn't seem to hear her. Instead, she turned her gaze to the floor, her voice trembling as she continued. "I've been trying so hard to keep up, to be like you, to fit in, to get people to notice me the way they notice you. And the more I tried, the more I felt like I was losing myself. But then, when I saw how much everyone was celebrating you tonight, how much everyone loved you, I just couldn't take it anymore." Jamie's chest tightened as she tried to comprehend what Lauren was saying. "You tried to sabotage my party because you were jealous?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Is that what this is all about?" Lauren's face flushed with shame, but she nodded. "Yes, I thought if I could take away the one thing that mattered to you, your birthday, your special night, then maybe you would finally notice me. Maybe I could be the one in the spotlight for once. Maybe I could feel like I mattered." Jamie felt her heart shatter as she listened to Lauren's confession. She never could have imagined that her best friend, the person she had trusted most in the world, would ever feel this way, would ever go so far as to hurt her to fill the emptiness inside. "I never wanted to hurt you," Lauren added, her voice breaking. I don't know how to fix it. I don't know how to fix me." For a long moment, Jamie said nothing. She stood there, her mind reeling from the weight of the revelation. What could she possibly say to make sense of this? How could she possibly find forgiveness when she felt like the foundation of everything she knew had been cracked open. But as she looked at Lauren, her best friend, her childhood companion, she saw the brokenness in her eyes, the sadness, and the regret that had been hidden behind the bitterness. "Lauren," Jamie whispered, her voice trembling with emotion, "I don't know if I can ever forgive you for what you did tonight, but I can't lose you. Not like this. We need to figure this out. We need to talk about this. I don't want to lose my best friend." Lauren's eyes filled with tears as she nodded, her voice barely audible. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know how to tell you. I was scared of losing you. And instead, I just pushed you away." Jamie's heart softened slightly, but the pain of the betrayal was still there. It would take time to heal, to rebuild the trust that had been shattered. But in that moment, she realized something important. Their friendship wasn't over, not yet. It would take work, it would take honesty, and it would take both of them being vulnerable in ways they had never been before. "I don't know what's next," Jamie said quietly, "but we can't keep going like this. We need to figure it out. Together." For the first time that night, Lauren offered Jamie a small, tentative smile, a smile that carried with it a glimmer of hope. "I don't want to lose you, Jamie. I'll do whatever it takes to make things right." Jamie took a deep breath, the weight of the evening still heavy on her shoulders. But for the first time in a long while, she felt a flicker of something positive, a chance for healing, a chance to rebuild what had been broken. As they stood there, both of them uncertain but willing to try, the world outside continued to spin. The party raged on, oblivious to the quiet storm that had just passed between them. But for Jamie and Lauren, the journey was just beginning. What had started as a night filled with laughter and celebration had now become a turning point, a moment that would shape their friendship forever. The question was, could they move past the hurt, or would this betrayal mark the end of everything they had once shared? The days that followed Jamie's birthday were nothing short of tense. What had started as a celebration quickly spiraled into one of the most challenging moments of both Jamie and Lauren's lives. The truth, once buried beneath the surface, had finally been exposed, and now they both had to face the consequences. But even as the raw emotions settled into silence, neither of them could deny that something had changed. What they once had as best friends would never be the same again. After the confrontation at the party, Jamie had done what she thought was best. She pulled away from the situation, allowing herself time to process the deep hurt and shock of what Lauren had revealed. She spent the next few days in a haze of confusion, replaying the conversation over and over again. What Lauren had confessed, that she had been driven by jealousy, that she had tried to sabotage Jamie's celebration to claim the spotlight, had shaken Jamie to her core. In her mind, it wasn't just the betrayal that stung. It was the fact that Lauren had never spoken up about her feelings. For years, they had shared everything, and yet Lauren had kept this festering wound hidden, allowing it to grow and poison their friendship. On the other hand, Lauren was struggling too. Her heart ached as she tried to make sense of her actions. The guilt weighed heavily on her every step, a constant reminder of the damage she had caused. She had acted out of fear and insecurity, never considering the long-term effects of her actions on the person she loved most. Now she felt a deep, suffocating sense of regret. In the past, she had always been able to rely on Jamie to be there for her, to give her strength in moments of doubt. But now, she wasn't sure if that would ever be the case again. After several days of silence, Lauren finally reached out. Her message was simple, but Jamie could feel the sincerity in it. "Can we talk? I know I've hurt you, but I want to make things right. Please." Jamie stared at the screen, her thumb hovering over the reply button. She wanted to say something, to give Lauren the chance to explain herself further. But the pain was still fresh, and she wasn't sure if she could go through another conversation that might just open the wound further. For a long while, Jamie sat with her thoughts, torn between anger and compassion. She had always prided herself on being understanding, on forgiving those she loved. But this betrayal felt different. It wasn't just a mistake. It was a calculated decision that had hurt her deeply. In the end, she decided to meet with Lauren, but she wasn't sure what would come of it. What was left to salvage between them? Lauren waited at the small cafe where they had agreed to meet. The minutes ticked by slowly, each one heavier than the last. She had asked for this meeting, but deep down, she wondered if Jamie would even show up. The last time they had spoken, it had been filled with tension, and the silence that had followed had been deafening. When Jamie walked into the cafe, Lauren's breath caught in her throat. She looked as beautiful as ever, but there was a hardness to her eyes, a guard that had been put up, a shield that wasn't there before. Jamie's presence felt like a mixture of warmth and distance, as though she were standing at the edge of a cliff, unsure whether to step forward or turn back. "Hey," Jamie said quietly as she took a seat across from Lauren, her tone measured, almost cautious. "Hey," Lauren replied, her voice shaking slightly. She was trying to hold it together, but inside, her emotions were a whirlwind. "Thank you for coming. I know I don't deserve this, but I needed to see you." Jamie nodded, trying to keep her composure. "I don't know where to start, Lauren," she admitted. "Everything you said that night, it just hit me so hard. I never saw it coming. You were my best friend. I thought we understood each other, you know. But now, everything feels different." Lauren's heart clenched at Jamie's words. She knew the damage she had done, and she was afraid it might be too late to fix things. "I know, and I'm so sorry. I wish I could take back the things I did, but I can't. I was so caught up in my own feelings that I didn't stop to think about how it would hurt you. You were never the problem, Jamie. It was me." Jamie looked away for a moment, taking a deep breath. She wasn't sure what she wanted to hear anymore, but she needed to know that Lauren understood the gravity of what had happened. "But why, Lauren? Why didn't you just talk to me? I would have listened. I would have understood, no matter what." Lauren bit her lip, her eyes brimming with tears. "I don't know. I was scared, Jamie. Scared that I wasn't enough. Scared that I'd lose you to everyone else. It wasn't about you. It was about me, and the way I've always felt like I'm in the shadow of the person you've become. I never saw it that way," Jamie said, her voice soft but firm. "You're not in my shadow. You're my equal. But I can't just pretend like everything's okay. You've hurt me, Lauren, and it's going to take time to trust you again. I need to figure out if this friendship is worth saving." Lauren nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. "I understand, and I'll do whatever it takes to prove that I'm worthy of your trust. I don't expect you to forgive me right away, but I want you to know that I am truly sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. I've just been so lost in my own fears, and I took it out on the one person who always had my back. That's on me." Jamie sat silently for a moment, her heart a tangled mess of emotions. She wanted to forgive Lauren, to move past the betrayal. But the truth was, it wasn't that easy. Betrayal wasn't something you could just brush under the rug. It lingered. It festered. And while forgiveness was possible, it was a long, arduous journey that couldn't be rushed. "I don't know if I can just go back to the way things were," Jamie said finally, her voice low. "Maybe that's not even possible. But I do know that I'm not ready to lose you for good. I think we both need to take a step back and really figure out what this friendship means. We need to rebuild trust, slowly." Lauren looked up, her heart swelling with a mixture of relief and sadness. "I'll wait for you. I know it's going to take time, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make things right. If that means giving you space, I'll do that. If that means showing up every day to prove I'm here, I'll do that too. I won't give up on us." Jamie nodded, wiping the stray tear from her cheek. "Okay, but we have to be honest with each other from now on. No more secrets, no more pretending. We have to be real." "Agreed," Lauren whispered, a sense of peace beginning to settle over her. They sat in silence for a few moments, the weight of the conversation lingering in the air. There was no magic fix, no immediate solution to the years of hurt and confusion. But there was a glimmer of hope, a recognition that, despite everything that had happened, the bond between them was still worth salvaging. As they stood up to leave, Jamie glanced at Lauren, her heart still heavy, but a little lighter than before. There was no telling what the future would hold for their friendship, but for the first time in a long while, Jamie felt the possibility of healing. It wasn't going to be easy, and there would be bumps along the way. But at least now, they were both willing to try. They left the cafe that day not knowing what would happen next, but both carrying the fragile hope that, in time, they could rebuild what had been broken. Final message and call to action. What would you do if your best friend betrayed you? Do you believe in second chances, or is forgiveness something that takes too much time to earn back? Let us know in the comments below, because no matter how much pain we experience, sometimes the hardest thing we can do is choose to heal. The weeks that followed Jamie's birthday were a blur. Though the initial shock had begun to wear off, the pain of betrayal still lingered, casting a long shadow over every interaction with Lauren. The promise they had made, to take things slowly, to rebuild what had been broken, wasn't easy. Trust, once shattered, could not be repaired overnight. It took time, and both of them knew this. But the emotional distance that now existed between them was undeniable. Jamie tried to focus on the small steps, those quiet moments of connection that didn't carry the weight of the past, but instead offered a fragile glimpse of the future. She had started to notice that Lauren, in her own way, was trying. She sent messages of support without expecting anything in return, showed up at events with a quiet smile, and did little things to remind Jamie that she wasn't going anywhere. It wasn't a grand gesture. There were no fireworks, no dramatic apologies. But the effort was there. Still, Jamie couldn't shake the feeling that the trust they once had was gone. She had always known Lauren as someone who had her back, someone she could rely on no matter what. But now, when she thought about their friendship, she couldn't help but wonder, would things ever go back to how they were before? Was it even possible to rebuild something so fractured? Lauren, for her part, had retreated into herself. Her own shame and regret gnawed at her every moment. She hated herself for what she had done. The jealousy, the manipulation. It wasn't who she was. It wasn't the person Jamie had known for so many years. She had let fear and insecurity cloud her judgment, and now she had to live with the consequences. It wasn't easy for her to see Jamie distance herself, to watch the hurt in her eyes when they spoke, but Lauren knew that she deserved it. She had taken a gamble, and it had cost her everything she cared about. Over time, the two women began to talk again, though it wasn't as easy as it had been. Each conversation was an effort to rebuild, a careful negotiation of the boundaries that had once been so fluid between them. They spoke about their lives, their hopes, their fears. At first, the discussions were awkward, filled with the discomfort of unspoken truths, but slowly, they began to find their footing. They shared their feelings honestly, without pretense, and that became the first real step toward healing. But it wasn't just about words, it was about actions. Lauren had promised that she would work to rebuild trust, but words alone couldn't fix what had been broken. It was the small things that mattered, the thoughtful messages, the times Lauren showed up when Jamie needed her, and the moments when Lauren proved, through her actions, that she wasn't just apologizing for the sake of it, but because she truly wanted to make things right. Jamie started to see that there was a genuine effort behind Lauren's actions, though the scar of the betrayal still remained. She had to remind herself that healing was a process, not an immediate result. Every small step forward was important, but it didn't erase the past. The wound was still there, a scar that would never completely disappear. One afternoon, Lauren invited Jamie to meet at their old hangout spot, the park bench they had spent countless afternoons talking on when they were younger. It was a place full of memories, full of laughter and secrets. Jamie hesitated at first. It had been so long since they had sat there together. So much had changed. But despite everything, she knew that the park bench represented more than just a spot. It was a symbol of their bond, the foundation of their friendship. When Jamie arrived, she found Lauren already sitting there, her head down, lost in thought. The moment she saw Jamie, Lauren stood up quickly, as if she had been waiting for this moment for what felt like an eternity. "Hey," Lauren said, her voice tentative, almost unsure. "Hey," Jamie replied, her voice soft. She sat down beside her, the silence between them comfortable, but heavy with the weight of everything unsaid. After a long pause, Lauren spoke again. "I've been thinking about everything we've been through, and I know it's not enough to just say I'm sorry. I've hurt you, and there's no excuse for that. But I want you to know that I'm here, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to earn your trust again. I can't undo what I've done, but I can be better from now on." Jamie's heart softened at the sincerity in Lauren's voice, but she wasn't ready to let go of her pain just yet. "It's not that simple, Lauren," she said quietly. "I wish it were, but trust isn't something you can just snap back into place. I'm trying to understand why this happened, why you let things go this far. And I'm still angry. I'm still hurt. I don't think I'll ever forget how you made me feel that night." Lauren nodded, her eyes filled with regret. "I know, and I don't expect you to forget. I can't erase it, but I hope that, in time, we can move past it. I don't want to lose you." Jamie paused, her hands nervously twisting in her lap. The familiar ache of betrayal was still there, but something in Lauren's eyes told her that she wasn't just asking for forgiveness. She was asking for a chance to make things right. The fear of losing her best friend weighed heavily on Jamie's heart. She had always known that Lauren was someone worth fighting for, even if the path to forgiveness seemed impossible. "I don't know if I can trust you the way I did before," Jamie said slowly, her voice breaking. "But I want to try. I don't want to lose our friendship. But I need to know that you're really ready to put in the effort, to show me that you're not just saying these things because you feel guilty, but because you truly want to be there for me." Lauren reached out, her hand trembling slightly as it rested on Jamie's. "I'm ready, Jamie. I've learned a lot these past few weeks. I know I can't take back what I've done, but I promise you, I will work every day to show you that I can be the friend you deserve. I don't want to hurt you anymore." Jamie looked at her for a long moment, her heart torn between the need for self-preservation and the desire to believe in the possibility of healing. "I'm scared, Lauren," she admitted softly. "I'm scared that you'll hurt me again. But I also know that we've been through so much together. I'm willing to take the risk, but we have to take it slow. No more games. No more pretending. We have to be real with each other." Lauren nodded, a quiet understanding passing between them. "No more pretending. I promise." And so they began the long process of rebuilding their friendship. It wasn't easy. There were days when Jamie's doubt would creep in, when the anger would resurface, when she would wonder if she was making a mistake by giving Lauren another chance. But there were also moments of clarity. Those small, quiet victories when they'd laugh together like they used to, when they'd talk about the future without the weight of betrayal looming over them. It was a process, and it would take time. Weeks turned into months, and slowly but surely their bond began to heal. It was still fragile, still delicate, but it was real. The scars were there, but they weren't as sharp as they had once been. They were a reminder that friendship, even in its darkest moments, had the power to be rebuilt, stronger, more resilient than before. Jamie had learned a valuable lesson through this journey. Trust was never something to be taken for granted. It had to be nurtured, cared for, and protected. But she also realized that forgiveness didn't mean forgetting. It meant moving forward with the understanding that people make mistakes, but that they can also change. Lauren, too, had learned the importance of being honest with herself and with the people she loved. She had spent so much of her life hiding behind her insecurities, afraid of being vulnerable. But now, she understood that true strength came from being open, from acknowledging her flaws, and from doing the hard work of earning back the trust she had broken. Their journey wasn't over, but they had come a long way from the moment of betrayal. There would be setbacks, challenges, and moments of doubt, but they had each other. And that, in the end, was what mattered the most. Final reflection and call to action. What's the hardest thing you've had to forgive in a friendship? Do you believe trust can truly be rebuilt, or do some things go beyond repair? Share your thoughts below. Sometimes, the hardest lessons in life are the ones that teach us how to grow, to forgive, and to move forward together. The season had changed by the time Jamie and Lauren sat down in the park again, the place where it all began, the place where they had once shared their dreams, their fears, and countless stories of their lives. Autumn had come, bringing with it a crispness in the air and a quiet calm that seemed to mirror their relationship. The trees were shedding their leaves, but unlike the painful moments that had fallen away between them, these leaves felt like a natural part of the process of change. The months following their tentative reconciliation had not been easy. There were days when both of them stumbled, when old insecurities resurfaced, or when one of them felt the weight of the past pressing down. But what they had learned during these months was not just about forgiveness. It was about growth, about seeing each other as not just friends, but as individuals capable of making mistakes and then trying to mend them. As Jamie sat on the familiar bench, her legs crossed beneath her and her arms folded loosely in front of her, she realized just how much had changed. She had not expected to feel so much peace after everything that had happened. There had been anger, sadness, even bitterness at times, but now, as she watched the trees sway gently in the autumn breeze, she felt something different, a quiet acceptance. Lauren joined her moments later, a thermos of tea in her hands. They had met here many times before, but today felt different. Today, it wasn't just about talking. It was about reflecting. The bench had always been their place of solace, but now it was more than that. It was a symbol of their shared history, their bond, and the journey they had taken together, no matter how fractured it had seemed at times. "Tea?" Lauren asked, handing Jamie a mug. The smile she gave was small but genuine, a far cry from the defensive, distant expression that had been there months ago. Jamie accepted the offer, the warmth from the tea spreading through her fingers. She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the conversation that had been coming for some time. "It's funny," Jamie said, her voice soft. "I never thought we'd be here again. After everything that happened, I didn't think I'd be sitting next to you, talking like this." Lauren lowered her gaze to her tea, as if unsure how to proceed, but then nodded, her voice gentle. "I didn't think so either. It took me a long time to realize that you weren't the problem. It was my own insecurities, my fear of losing you, my fear of not being enough. I let those fears control me, and in the process, I almost lost everything." Jamie's heart ached as she listened to Lauren's words. It was a raw admission, but one that carried with it a sense of honesty that hadn't been there before. "I get it now," Jamie said quietly. "I think, for a long time, I blamed you. I blamed you for everything that happened at my birthday, for the lies, for the betrayal. But somewhere along the way, I started to understand that you weren't trying to hurt me. You were just lost. You were hurting in ways I didn't see." Lauren blinked, her eyes reflecting the weight of Jamie's words. I didn't know how to deal with all of it. I was so afraid that I wasn't important to you anymore, that you'd outgrow me, that everyone else would take your attention. I didn't know how to talk to you about it, so I made some really terrible decisions. I wish I could go back and change it, but I can't." Jamie took a slow sip of her tea, thinking about everything that had happened over the past few months, the long nights of sleeplessness, the conversations where they both danced around the truth, the way their friendship had been tested in ways neither of them had anticipated. "I know you can't change it," Jamie said, her voice quiet but resolute. "But I don't need you to. What I need is for us to keep moving forward, to keep being honest with each other. We've both made mistakes, but I'm learning that forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. It just means moving forward with the understanding that we're not perfect, and that's okay. There was a long pause as the words hung in the air between them, the weight of them settling into both of their hearts. Lauren swallowed hard, nodding slowly as she let the meaning of what Jamie had said sink in. She had come to realize something important in the months since their confrontation. That forgiveness wasn't just about saying, "I'm sorry." It was about understanding the hurt, seeing the bigger picture, and being willing to accept the consequences of one's actions without expecting everything to be perfect again. "I think that's the hardest part for me," Lauren admitted after a while. "The idea that things can't go back to how they were. That no matter how hard I try, I can't undo the past. I think I always thought that forgiveness meant things would be the same, that we'd just pick up where we left off. But now I know it's not like that. It's about rebuilding. It's about learning to trust again." Jamie smiled softly, her heart lighter than it had been in months. "Yeah, it is. Trust takes time, but it doesn't mean it's impossible." Both of them sat in silence for a while, just soaking in the quiet, the peace of the moment. The park around them was calm, peaceful, and full of life, just as their friendship now felt. They weren't pretending anymore. They weren't sweeping things under the rug. They were real with each other, more real than they had ever been, and that honesty was beginning to heal the wounds they had carried for so long. "I've learned a lot these past few months," Jamie said quietly. "I've learned that I can't control everything. I've learned that people aren't perfect, and neither am I, but I've also learned that people can change, and that if we really want something, we have to be willing to work for it. And I don't want to lose you, Lauren. I don't want to lose what we've built." Lauren's eyes shone with unshed tears, and she reached out to squeeze Jamie's hand. "You won't. I promise you. I'm not going anywhere." They sat there for a long while, sipping tea and talking about their lives, about what had changed and what hadn't. They talked about their families, their hopes for the future, their dreams, and even their fears. And for the first time in a long time, Jamie felt as though she had found the person she had once known, the friend who had been by her side through everything, the one who had shown her love and care in ways no one else had. But this time, their friendship was different. It wasn't built on a foundation of blind trust. It was built on understanding, on acceptance, and on a willingness to grow together. They had learned that love, whether it's for a partner, a family member, or a friend, wasn't something that could be taken for granted. It had to be nurtured, cared for, and protected. As the sun began to set, casting a warm golden hue over the park, Jamie and Lauren stood up from the bench. There was no grand gesture, no dramatic conclusion to their story. Instead, there was just the quiet, steady understanding that their journey together wasn't over. "Are you ready?" Lauren asked, her voice calm but full of anticipation. "Yeah," Jamie replied with a smile. "Let's go home." And with that, they walked side by side, their steps in sync, as the last light of day faded into the evening sky. The months after their conversation in the park had been a turning point. It wasn't as though everything suddenly felt perfect. Trust, once fractured, doesn't heal overnight, and Jamie and Lauren had learned it the hard way. What they had gained, however, was a deeper understanding of each other and a commitment to rebuilding the bond that had been tested to its limits. They had learned that healing was not a linear process but a series of steps, sometimes backward, sometimes forward, but always with the intent to grow. For Jamie, the hardest part was accepting that their friendship would never be the same. She had spent so many years knowing exactly where Lauren stood, always able to rely on her without question. That security had been ripped away when Lauren's betrayal came to light. The deep hurt of that night had cracked her perception of what was real, and even though she had forgiven Lauren, the echo of that betrayal still lingered. It wasn't just about forgiving Lauren for the past actions. It was about finding a new way forward. Lauren, on the other hand, had been fighting her own battles. The guilt and regret from her past decisions weighed heavily on her. It wasn't easy to accept that she had hurt the one person she had always considered her closest friend. As she worked to regain Jamie's trust, She found herself also grappling with the realization that her insecurities were the root of so many of her past actions. The jealousy, the need for validation, it had all come from a place of fear, a fear of being forgotten or discarded. In confronting those insecurities, she had to learn not only to apologize but to change. Their relationship had evolved from the kind of connection built on unspoken understandings into one that was grounded in open communication and vulnerability. They had both agreed to take things slowly, and that decision turned out to be their saving grace. Every small step, every conversation, and every moment of shared laughter had helped pave the way for healing. But just when they thought they were in the clear, life threw them another challenge. It was a Saturday morning when Jamie received a call from Lauren. Her tone was tight, her words cautious. "Jamie, I need to talk to you. Something happened. It's about me." Jamie's heart skipped a beat. After everything they had been through, the last thing she expected was another crisis. "What's wrong?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady, though she could feel the anxiety creeping in. I messed up again," Lauren admitted, her voice trembling. "Not with you, but with someone else. And I don't know how to fix it." Jamie felt the all-too-familiar pang of anxiety rise up, but she took a deep breath. "What happened?" Lauren hesitated for a moment before explaining. She had started dating someone new, someone she had met through work. At first, things were good, comfortable, even. But as their relationship developed, Lauren had started feeling overwhelmed by her own insecurities once again. She had kept certain parts of herself hidden, afraid that being completely open would drive the other person away. She had lied, keeping secrets in an attempt to maintain control of the situation. When the truth came out, it resulted in an argument. She realized she had once again fallen into the same pattern of fear, dishonesty, and insecurity that had plagued her past relationships. "I don't want to hurt anyone again, Jamie. I've already hurt you enough," Lauren confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I keep making the same mistakes." Jamie sat in silence for a long moment. She had seen this side of Lauren before, the side that struggled with her own worth and the tendency to sabotage relationships before they had a chance to fully bloom. But hearing it again, after everything they had been through, was a harsh reminder of just how deep Lauren's insecurities ran. "I understand, Lauren," Jamie said finally. "But it's not just about you anymore. It's about the people you care about too. You have to face the truth, even if it's uncomfortable. And you have to be honest with yourself, just like you've been honest with me." Lauren nodded, tears threatening to spill from her eyes. "I know. I just don't know how to stop." Jamie's heart softened at the pain in Lauren's voice. "You have to be willing to change, Lauren. Change isn't easy, but if you're willing to face your fears, you can break the cycle. But you have to make that choice." There was a pause before Lauren spoke again, her voice steadying. "You're right. I need to do this for me, not just for the people around me. I need to figure out who I am, and I need to stop running from it." The conversation with Lauren wasn't easy for Jamie, but it was necessary. She had seen the pattern in Lauren's behavior before, but this time felt different. There was a determination in Lauren's voice that hadn't been there before. It wasn't just about fixing her relationship with Jamie or with anyone else. It was about fixing herself. As Jamie thought about the conversation, she couldn't help but wonder how much of their friendship had been shaped by Lauren's insecurity. The jealousy, the lies, the betrayals. Those things had never been about Jamie. They had been about Lauren's fear of being left behind, of being forgotten. But now, Jamie realized, Lauren was beginning to take responsibility for her actions. It wasn't just about mending the past. It was about making better choices moving forward. Jamie found herself at a crossroads. She couldn't do the work for Lauren. Lauren had to choose to break free of her fears and change her patterns. But Jamie could offer her support, could be there for her as a friend, as long as Lauren was committed to change. And in that moment, Jamie realized something important. Their friendship wasn't just about supporting each other during the good times. It was about being there for the tough times too, about giving each other the space to grow and heal, even when it was painful. Weeks passed, and Lauren worked hard to navigate her relationship with herself and with others. She sought therapy, began confronting the root causes of her insecurities, and made a conscious effort to be more honest with those around her, including the person she had been dating. It wasn't easy. There were days when she felt like she was taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back. But with each small victory, she could feel the weight of the past lifting, even if just a little. And throughout it all, Jamie stood by her. She wasn't there to fix Lauren, but she was there to listen, to offer guidance, and to support her friend as she took the hard steps toward change. They spent hours talking about their lives, about their fears, about the things they wanted for their futures. Their conversations grew deeper, their understanding of each other more complete. But the most important thing Jamie learned during this time was the power of patience. She had wanted to rush through the pain, to move past the betrayal quickly, but real healing wasn't something that could be rushed. It took time, it took effort, and most of all, it took willingness from both sides. One afternoon, Lauren called Jamie again. "I think I'm finally getting it," she said, her voice filled with relief. "I'm starting to understand who I really am, and I'm finally starting to let go of the things I've been holding on to. I'm not perfect, but I'm trying, Jamie. I'm trying so hard." Jamie smiled softly, her heart swelling with pride for her friend. "You're doing great, and I'm here for you, no matter what. We're in this together." Lauren's voice cracked slightly. "I don't know what I would do without you, Jamie. You've been my rock through all of this. Thank you." Jamie paused for a moment, letting the words sink in. They had been through so much together, and yet she realized there was still so much left to learn about each other. The road ahead was long, but the distance between them had narrowed. "Don't thank me yet," Jamie said, a playful smile in her voice. "We've got a long way to go, but we're getting there." And as they hung up, Jamie realized that their friendship wasn't about perfection. It was about support, trust, and the understanding that people could change, grow, and learn. Sometimes it was messy and complicated, but in the end, it was worth it.